Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Thank you for tuning in. Today I'm finally gonna do something to the GTR that I've been wanting to do since I got it, and that is turn a wrench. In my opinion, you do not own your car until you've turned a wrench on it, gotten your fingers a little greasy, and in most cases, a little bit bloody. Today, I'm just gonna be doing a simple oil change. It's nothing that crazy or groundbreaking, but it's a nice little introduction into just kind of getting to know my car a little bit better. I have checked it out, and doing an oil change on the GTR is very simple. But unlike some of my other cars, there are a few little things that make this change a little bit different, and I'll show you what those are. Before we get to the oil change, I am gonna add one little extra step, and you don't need to do this unless you want to. I'm gonna run a little bit of Seafoam cleaner into the oil to clean the engine from the inside. The reason why I'm doing this is the car does have about 97,000 miles on it, so there's gonna be some deposits and buildups inside the engine and the passageways, and this is just a good way to clean it out. This stuff is very easy to use. Before you do the oil change, you just add it to the oil. It's 1 ounce per 1 quart of oil. This car carries about 5.5 quarts of oil, so I'm gonna add 5.5 ounces of Seafoam. You let it idle for about 10 minutes, and then you drain it with the oil, and then just go on as normal. While the car is idling and the Seafoam is doing its work, I'm going to talk about the first thing that kind of is an issue when doing an oil change on the GTR, and it's something that I've talked about in my previous videos. That is the ground clearance of the front bumper. For those of you who've seen my previous videos, you know it's only got about 5 inches of clearance, and as you can see, will not clear my jack, which means it makes it hard to jack the car up. So I'm going to do what any other redneck and backyard and whatever mechanic comes across, and I'm going to improvise some ramps with just some lumber. By driving it up onto the ramps, we're going to be able to get the car high enough, we can get the jack underneath and jack the car up. Really cool thing about the GTR, in the design, they actually have some very specific jack points so you know exactly where to jack your car up. And on top of that, they gave you 2 safe points to put jack stands that are specifically designed for jack stands along the side rails, and we'll show you where those are. Now that the car is in the air, we can actually get underneath it and get to our actual oil change. As you can see, there's these panels here underneath the car which are used for aerodynamic purposes, and we're gonna have to get the middle one out of the way to get access to the oil drain plug and the oil filter. It's actually really easy to do. You have a number of clips along the outside here where you can just use a flathead screwdriver, and they just pretty much, you can unclip them, unless they break like that one did. Damn, this one just doesn't want to move. There we go. You also have a number of 10mm bolts that are just really easy to get to. They're not on there very tight. And once all the clips and bolts are out, this centerpiece should come right on out. Huh. All right. Well, it looks like the rest of this job is going to be really easy. The oil drain plug is right here, and the oil filter's literally right here, and there's nothing underneath the oil filter, so when you take it off, it's not going to drip all over something you have to clean up later, so that's actually really nice. So when you're doing the oil change on this car, the only thing that makes it a little bit annoying is the fact that it sits so low, and you're going to have to, you know, basically drive up on blocks, get it high enough to get a jack underneath it, and then just removing this center piece of the plastic to get access. But once you get access, man, this looks like it's gonna be really easy. Once the oil is done draining, you go ahead and put the plug back in. However, don't forget to pick up a new crush washer from an auto parts store. Otherwise, when you put everything back together, it could leak at the bolt. Now that the oil's been drained and the drain plug's been put back in and the old filter's been removed, it's time to put on the new oil filter. I'm actually using a Wix XP oil filter. Now, if you run this part number versus the compatible cars that it's for, the R35 is not going to come up as a compatible car. This is actually meant for a Honda CR-V, but it fits the R35 and it's a bigger filter. Before you put this in, what you're going to want to do is take a little bit of your oil, get a little bit on your finger, and just kind of wet this ring right here. And what that does is it helps just create a better seal when you actually install this on the car. All right, now that the drain plug is in and the oil filter is reattached, time to put the oil in. Like I said, this actually takes about 5.5 quarts. Mobil 1 Full Synthetic 0W40 is recommended by Nissan, so that's what I'm gonna roll with. All right, so I finished filling up the oil. I did check the dipstick. I'm halfway between the low and the high. There's still one more thing I need to do before I'm done, and that's fire up the car. Pretty much I want to fire it up to climb back underneath to make sure I don't have any leaks at either the drain plug or the oil filter before I put that aero plate back in place, and I'm done. All right, so the GTR has been running for a few minutes. I'm underneath here. There's absolutely no leaks at the oil filter or the drain plug, which means I'm good. I'm almost done. All I've got to do underneath here is put that plastic shield back into place, and we're almost done. Just one more small step to go. There we go. All right, so we're almost done. There's two more things we need to do. First thing we need to do is reset the counter on the computer. That's a kind of a nice thing about this car is it lets you know when it's time to change your oil, so you don't have to do what I did with my old cars, which was write down your mileage and keep a spreadsheet and just keep an eye on your mileage. So as you can see, when I first fire up a car, it gives me the warning that my oil and oil filter are due to be done. What you do is you just kind of click on your info. You can see the maintenance area. You click there, you click on your engine oil, and all you have to do is hit reset distance. Do the same thing for the oil filter, and you're pretty much good to go. So if I turn the car off, and then I turn it back on, you can see I no longer get that warning message when the car first turns on, and I know everything's good to go. All right, one last thing left to do, and that is to check the oil manually. Now, when we did check the oil when we filled it up, the car was at a bit of an angle that could affect things. We also started up the car and let it run for a few minutes. That means oil's moved through the passages, and that's going to affect the oil level. So I'm just going to check it manually. As you can see, it's right there at the upper part. Ideally, you want it at about 10 centimeters from the high hole, which is exactly where it is, which means I am perfectly where I want to be with the oil, and this job is done. And there we go. Nice easy oil change on the R35 GTR. I'm really glad I did it myself because I've been itching to get some wrench time on this car, and I finally did it. In fact, I'm not done yet. Tune in next week as I do the spark plugs on this car. I know what you're thinking. Spark plugs, typically not that exciting nor that difficult. And on other cars, you're usually right. However, on the R35, the intake manifold sits over the spark plugs, which means I've got to remove all of that just to get to them. So it's going to be a little bit more labor intensive, and I'm really looking forward to it. If you feel I've missed anything or you have any questions about this video, go ahead and post in the comments down below. I will respond to you. If you want to see more GTR content in the future, go and subscribe to my channel. You can now follow me on all forms of social media, which include Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, and I'll leave links to those in the description down below. I thank you all for watching, and until next time, forget everything else, focus on the finish line.